Hi, my name is Andrew Bouchard, and this is my philosophy of blues dance. You know, as somebody who started out dancing in the Lindy Hop community, it's simultaneously very strange and very exciting to be having to define my philosophy of the dance. See, when I started in Lindy Hop, most of this was already defined for us. People had already done the legwork. We had a lot of videos to look at. We had Frankie Manning, who had obviously been one of the original choreographers. And we had people in an authority to kind of set up and say, this is Lindy Hop, this is not Lindy Hop. Blues is a little bit different at this point, and the state of blues, especially as I find it in the Southeast, kind of has two camps. The camps that I run into are, the first one is actually the way that I first learned blues dancing, which is the mentality that there is no basic step. There is no formalism to blues. It's all about moving to whatever slow music you like with whatever kind of general style you think fits it. And there's something very freeing about that. There's something very fun about that, and that's nice. And I enjoyed doing that for a couple of years, and then I stumbled across the first year that they did a blues track at Lindy Focus, and for the first time I was introduced to blues dancing as a family of dances that have a history that goes back with the actual music. You see, if you think about it, the most sensible definition for blues dancing, as I think of it, is that blues dancing is dancing to blues music. And blues music, as identified by the music community, is an established genre. It has subgenres, it has a history, it has an entire family tree of subgenres and history, and if you go back to each of those if you go back to each of those styles of music, you have a style of dance that went along with it. So in the years since I picked that up and started studying formal blues dancing that has a history that traces back to the origins of the music, I've really fallen in love with that style of blues dancing, with that philosophy of blues dancing. Now, my goal is not to go to war with anybody over the term blues dancing. There are people out there who are evangelistic about both sides of it. They think that blues dancing, as I think of blues dancing, is the only one that should have a claim on the term of blues dancing, that everything else should be called something else, be it fusion or be it teal or turquoise or any of the other terminologies that have been bandied around. And then there are people on the other side who think that, they were the first ones to claim this revival and to claim this idea of blues dancing, and they should have claim to that term as much as anybody else, and that what I like should be specified as traditional blues dancing. I don't hold to that. When I say blues dancing, I mean dancing that traces back to the original forms of the original blues dancing that grew up with the styles of blues music. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go to war with anybody over the terminology, but I was talking with the guy who ran Willow Garage at one point, and they put out something called the Robotic Operating System, ROS. It's a very, very good piece of software if you work on modular autonomy, modular software for robotics. Has a lot of benefits, and I asked him, are you advancing ROS as a standard? Because in the robotics community, we have kind of the same problem. It's a relatively young community, and there's a lot of different standards out there, and a lot of push and pull for who gets to define what is modular, who gets to define the term autonomy in general, and all of this stuff. And I think that he gave me a really wise answer. What he said was absolutely not. We're not trying to push ROS as a standard. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make ROS so good that it doesn't make sense to use anything else. So what I would like to do, it's exciting to me that blues and the blues revival, for dancing at least, is still relatively young enough that I have the opportunity to make a contribution back to it. And so what I would like to do as a part of this YouTube channel, as a part of any teaching that I get to do, is to make my idea of blues, this blues that has a historical authenticity, this blues that traces back and is married to the music, to make it so good, to make it so well documented, to make it so sensible and so fun that it doesn't make sense to call anything else blues. To call anything else blues would just cause confusion, and to force that other group to come up with something else, to come up with some other terminology for whatever it is that they enjoy doing. So that's my philosophy of blues in a nutshell.